from Inwood, New York City, welcome to Inwood Art Works on Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims. Today, we welcome local actor and filmmaker Hannah Eakin. Hannah is a Arkansas-born, New York City-based actress, singer, writer, and filmmaker. She is a member of Actors Equity Association, holds her BM in musical theater from Oklahoma City University, works regularly with the New York Gilbert Sullivan Players, and has performed roles like Mary Poppins and Irene Molloy in Hello, Dolly, and regional houses and venues throughout New York City. As a creator, she finds inspiration in the intimate, complex, and often overlooked narratives of women throughout history. Her screenplays have garnered recognition from the Page International Screening Awards and ScreenCraft Drama Screenplay Competition. Her musical adaptation of Charlotte Brontë's classic novel, Jane Eyre, is recipient of the New York City Council on the Arts FY24 Support for Artist Grants, and her short film, The Poet's Daughter, received a grant from the Inwood Film Festival Filmmaker Fund. A self-taught director, she delights in studying the styles and techniques of great filmmakers and innovators. Her ongoing work includes the Sarah Teasdale Project, an expansive poetry and film history project culminating in 92 short films. We're going to talk about each 92 We're going to talk about all the films that we can talk about and talk with Hannah about her work behind the camera and on it, and in front of it. But first, let me welcome you, Hannah, to Inwood Art Works on Air.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good to have you. Thanks for taking the time here on a snowy Saturday here in Inwood. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a 25 minute walk from my apartment up here, and the snow is so gentle, and there are kids out like sledding, so it's a nice day for a nice walk through the park.
That's idyllic. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, we do love our parks and we do love the neighborhood. But we're going to start before we. Well, I guess I say, what brought you here? How the heck does you get from Arkansas to Inwood? I guess, is that a good one to start with? Why not?
Yeah, I think that's good. I grew up in a really artistic family. My dad is a philosophy professor and a science fiction writer, and also plays guitar, very musical. My mom is a piano player, and really my whole extended family is in the arts, whether as a professional or just as someone who loves the arts. So my brothers and my stepsister and I grew up just creating and drawing and in plays and in band and in choir. And so I went from this artistic family to wanting to go into theater. And I went to Oklahoma City University, as you read.
Great place.
Yes, loved them. They were awesome. I'm still very close with my voice teacher from there, several teachers. And then moved straight here now 11, 12 years ago after I graduated college.
And you still remain to tell the tale.
Here I am,
Wow.
still.
Very good.
Yeah.
You're still at Oklahoma City Shakespeare Festival? Is it Oklahoma Shake still there?
I think so. Yeah. If they're not there, they were there when I was in school and for a while after that.
Another group went down there to start a Shakespeare Festival about 15, 20 years ago or so. And but there's a lot of passionate people for poetry and the arts there, and that's why I was trying to get at. Because Oklahoma City is a very active dance community as well.
Huge dance community and a budding film community, I think, and there's cool stuff happening there. Yeah,
I didn't know about the film.
Yeah,
but it makes sense since you came from that area now, and all the film work you're doing. So I guess let's go back to the reason why you're here in many ways. You are an artist, obviously from your bio, if you were paying attention, or if you're tuning in right now, and you have a passion for creating theater and poetry and also film. So you have your great family, of course, but I don't take that as an answer so much in points. But what about your love for exploring the human experience through art? Where does that come from?
It's a good question. As a little kid, I grew up loving like the great Hollywood actors, like idolizing people like Audrey Hepburn and from like the classic golden age. And I remember she was really my hero through my childhood. And I remember in the 5th grade, we did these hero reports and I wrote about her. And I learned that she was this lovely actress, of course, but that she also did all of this lovely humanitarian work through UNICEF. And so it was like, that's what I want to be like. And so she was kind of my starting point, I think, of what an artist can be, not just to their craft, but also to the world around them. And then it sort of expanded into all these other heroes who were also creators in different fields. So I'm working on this musical, Jane Eyre, in part because I love Charlotte Brontë, this great writer, and all of these women throughout history who are poets and writers and actors and filmmakers. And these women became my inspirations. And I think it's a complicated answer, I guess, because I've always been an artist and I've never wanted to be anything else. But it's then becomes, how do you move through the world? How do you want to express yourself? Do you want to be an actor on the film or in the theater, or do you want to create the film and create the theater? And I guess the answer is that I've found is I want to do all of it, which
I want it all.
I want it all.
The whole world.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Well, and you can have it all. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why, that's my simple response is going, why not? Good
Yeah.
for you. And recognizing that and being inspired. And I mean, Audrey Hepburn is your muse. I think you're not the only young lady,
I think so.
or man for that matter, to really say that.
Yeah,
and I
totally.
think that's a good thing. She's but also, I have to say, what a well-rounded young person you were to kind of see the whole person, not just, of course, be enamored by the screen work, but going,
Yeah.
oh, they're involved in being able to do this and give back, and also have a real impact on society.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. And there's a social aspect to what you do.
Yeah.
I think comes through with that.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. So you've done a lot of acting. You've done Gilbert Sullivan
Yeah.
most recently too, I think, as well.
Yeah, I just did HMS Pinafore down in Florida.
The whole
with
thing
them.
yourself, did you?
Yeah,
Wow,
all by
that's
myself.
amazing.
Yes. No, they're a lovely company and a nice kind of. It's nice to have regular work with really lovely people. So
They've been around for a long time. They know how to do it well.
Yeah.
And, it's, as akin to, I don't have a GNS background so much other than appreciation for it, but I have a classical background. And so I've done the Molières, I've done the Marlowes, and yes, I've done Shakespeare. And, you have this affinity for the way this writer writes, these people, they do. I mean, obviously Richard Rodgers has a huge following, same in the American side of things so much. So I think that's really wonderful, and they've done tremendous work, and, you get to bring joy to so many people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I'm fairly new to the whole Gilbert and Sullivan canon. I'd never done one before I joined the company, and the first show I did with them was The Pirates of Penzance, and it was right after the lockdown lifted, essentially, and it was so joyful to do this piece that makes people laugh. I mean, just like belly laugh, and to have that immediately after this really dark time was really kind of life affirming, and I think that kind of hooked me into the whole GNS.
I'm not surprised
thing.
there's not going to be a GNS on Broadway or Pirates on Broadway. I think
Yeah.
there is going to be something. I heard rumors of something else, perhaps like maybe the Public Theater or something like that. But of course, not to be a big name attached or three. But I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, if you look at Broadway right now, for instance, and the operas we're seeing at the Met, everything is so dark tinged. I mean, there's a lot of. The majority of the new work we're seeing is very, very dark and very foreboding, and I understand there's reasons for all that.
Yeah.
But there's people just want to go to the theater and feel good. Is that a crime?
Yeah, no.
And that's a really great thing you're doing with the GNS. I think it's a fantastic release.
Yeah.
And congrats on keeping that going for
Thank
yourself as an
you.
actor.
Yeah.
But what inspired you to transition from acting to become a creator of work behind the camera?
I think it was honestly a bit of a fluke. Like I was always, like I said, I always loved films. I always loved classic Hollywood, etc. But I started wanting to do film and TV. And as a theater actor, I didn't have any film and TV footage of myself. So it's like, well, maybe I should just start filming myself. And then it became less about how do I get footage of myself on camera and like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, oh, I'm really interested in all this film history and all these techniques. And how do I want to tell this story from behind the camera now? So it started as kind of, I think, something to help myself as a film actor, and then became like a new passion that I didn't quite expect to have, that I'm still curious about and want to keep rolling with.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
where are you now in your journey and your curiosity?
Well, now I'm taking a slight break since The Poet's Daughter, which I did for the Inwood Film Festival Filmmaker Fund. But I do have a script that I'm developing that I hope to get produced within the next year or so.
Okay.
And then I also have this Sarah Teasdale project that's
Yes. Holy mackerel.
It's a beast, and I'm...
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the epic and poetic Sarah Teasdale project.
Totally.
What prompted this?
Well, this is one that actually started with, like, I like poetry. I need footage of myself on film. Maybe I could recite poetry in these interesting settings, and who knows what will come of it. And so I found this collection of poetry of Sarah Teasdale's, which I partly chose because I like her and partly because it's in the public domain. So
2 great reasons.
Yes. So then I started memorizing each poem and then kind of trying to come up with a unique scenario for each one. And then during the lockdown, I got into this huge film history phase where I saw this great documentary. I think it's called The Story of Film, an Odyssey.
Okay.
And it takes us through episode after episode of all of these, starting with the beginning of film and working through all of the genres through film history. And it's a fascinating documentary, and I fell in love with each of these genres, and I put myself through basically a film history course because of this documentary, and decided that I would use this poetry project to start filming those poems in each genre. So now I have this like German expressionist poem and this French impressionist poem, and I'm working through the histories now.
Sarah Teasdale had no idea the German expressionist poem she created, did she?
No.
Well, no, that's kind of great. You're going, no, Sarah, you're German expressionistic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what she would say. I hope she'd be glad that somebody likes her work enough to stick with it for 90 or so poems. But
And you're almost through them all?
I just finished the 60th one last year.
Okay.
And now my filming schedule is relatively open. So
Okay.
I'm like, maybe there'll be more of that.
That's pretty impressive. We'll have to have a 92, film festival about the Sarah Teasdale project.
Great.
Nonstop loop
Yes.
of the poems.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Well, we have to talk about, though, we're on the film subject, so that's a great story about, it's funny is how the mother inventions, kind of like, availability, necessity going, I like it and it's available. But the Poet's Daughter was not available because you created it from scratch.
Yes.
So leads me to ask, where'd that idea come from? And so you had the idea, but you actually made it. So where the need come down to make this film?
I've always been a writer, but I started screenwriting, I think it was in 2018, when there was a bit of a lull in like auditions and acting. I was like, I still want to create. What stories do I want to tell? And The Poet's Daughter is actually, I think, the first short screenplay I ever wrote. And it was born from this, I love Sylvia Plath. She's one of my favorite poets. And she has a diary entry where she talks about how she was, in her married life and her life as a mother, she was really only able to create before the rest of the family woke up. And then when everybody was up and working, she had to go be a mom and go grocery shopping and go through the motions of, being a 50s housewife, even though she had this like burning ache to be an artist and a poet. And I think I've always been fascinated by this idea of society's expectations of women versus what they're burning to do. And that I think it shows in all of the women I really admire, Sarah Teasdale, Kate Chopin, Charlotte Brontë, these great creators who existed in these times when they really weren't supposed to be creating. And And so I think this screenplay, when I first decided, like, screenwriting could be interesting, and I felt I could tell a concise but important story coming out of that idea that Sylvia Plath's journals introduced.
So you were Sylvia, in a way.
In a way, yeah.
Synthesizing Sylvia.
Yes,
In a way.
yes.
Yeah. Well, as I've seen the film, I'm not going to give it away, but it's very faithful to that. My point is, like, it's really faithful to what you set out to make. What you described. It's about a woman who's not on her own time and must play the role of whatever the societal norms of the time requiring women to do at said time, and falling into that, which is it's a story about identity in many ways, like many are, and I think it's very apparent what you're saying too, and I enjoyed how the decisions, how you are in the roles you're willing to play and then the roles you're willing not to play. So I think you accomplished that, and I look forward to people checking it out for themselves at some point and watching the film. I'm sure it'll be available very far and wide in the near future. So as both the writer, director, and star of the film, do you feel you were able to manage these responsibilities effectively? And bottom line is, when I'm saying this, it's not a comment on anything you've done, but the point is, like, did you make I know it's faithful to the screenplay, but were you able, giving all these camera tricks and things you like to play with, were you able to make the film you wanted to make?
I think I made the film that I ultimately wanted to make. It looked different from how I had originally conceived it, but I think that's okay. We talked about necessity being the mother of invention, right? And in some perfect world, I had a 1950s car that you're driving through a 1950s neighborhood, and what it ended up,
$100,000 budget too.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
And then it ended up being a very minimalist design, and I didn't have a car. I had a couple pieces of cardboard and some lights, and but I think I'm proud of how it turned out, and a lot of why it became so minimalist and why I felt free to be minimalist with it is because of this film history journey I've been exploring, and all of these creators from the past who you see really don't have budgets but are able to make really powerful things with very few resources.
Love it. Well, it's very effective, and I particularly like the steering wheel and things like that.
Oh, good.
Well, nicely done.
Thank you.
And I could tell that's an homage to somebody you stole from,
Totally.
which is a great thing.
Yeah.
All the best art's stolen, folks. We all know that, right? So there's no shame in here.
No.
It's the way it is. But it's like it's finding things that work for you. Do you have any? You've done it all. You're in front of the camera. You're behind the camera. Any advice or lessons learned for those in Arkansas or Cincinnati or wherever you're coming from, trying to make a name for themselves and creating their own content?
I think maybe it's to not pigeonhole yourself, to not say, I want to be on Broadway, and so I'm only going to go to open calls, or I want to be a film actor, so I'm only going to do X, Y, and Z, because we have to stay totally focused to achieve our dreams. I think I've learned that you can have many dreams, and that those can often feed that first dream.
Yep.
And so don't limit yourself to one thing, I think.
Those are good things, and also your definition of success can continually change. You don't have to say, well, that's what I went to college for this, so I damn well better be making six figures by the end of the year. Yeah, that's not always the case.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's good lessons learned there. So it's 2025. You're taking some time off from filmmaking. So what is your focus for this year? Like, what's happening?
So I have this Jane Eyre musical that I am writing, and I won a grant for it last year to write the libretto. And so I wrote the libretto, and now I'm easing into the music composition world for it. So I'll be writing the music this year for that. So that's a big project that's in the works. And then I've got the Sarah Teasdale project always there with one or more,
Until
films
you die, you'll have the Sarah Teasdale
it will
project.
Always be there.
So that'd be great. Your grandchildren can make the Sarah Teasdale project.
Exactly. We'll pass it on.
It's wonderful. Yes.
And then I also have this other short film that I've got the script developed for and want to work on that too.
Okay. And still doing GNS stuff in between.
GNS and auditioning as much as I can.
Gotcha.
Still an acting life that I'm holding in addition to all of this creative work. So,
but it's all creative in a sense. It's about, as you said earlier so eloquently, about where you can be many different things.
Yeah.
And be the same person.
Yeah.
And on that, do you have a preference? Do you like one over the other or anything like that?
I mean, acting and singing are my first loves, and will probably always be really important and probably the crucial piece, but all the rest of it is also important and becoming more important. So those are the first loves, but the film stuff I don't think it's going away. Film and writing, I love it and I'm curious about it and I want to keep doing it.
Awesome, because you're very talented and you should keep going for it. And maybe even, I'm not going to say you should or shouldn't, but maybe create your own production company and keep doing things.
I'm thinking about it.
You should, I said. You heard it here first. I said totally do that. But I think you can do that. Absolutely, you're very talented and there's no reason why you can't.
Thank you.
You bet. Hannah, it's been a wonderful pleasure speaking with you. What else is going on should we know about? Anything else? Any parting words?
Parting words. No, just thank you. I'm about as indie as you can get starting out as a filmmaker. And so to be given a chance with the Inwood Film Festival Filmmaker Fund, I feel was such a nice encouragement, like a prod forward. It'd be like, you can do it, keep going. And I think that kind of encouragement for filmmakers at the beginning of our journeys is so important. So thank you for that.
You bet. Well, keep on making it. That's your promise back, all right? Keep on making it happen.
Yes.
And we're happy to have you. And, we'll just keep encouraging and hopefully Jane Eyre will be the next thing we see between the Sarah Teasdale projects we put out. But also exciting. So where can we send people to find more about your work? Do you have a website?
Yeah, hannaheikin.com. I have all my stuff there. And also I'm on Instagram at Hannah E. Eakin.
Okay. So. Listeners, you got your marching orders. Go follow her and collaborate, if you will, if you can find the right thing to do. So I want to thanks again to Hannah Eakin for being here and joining me on this Artist Spotlight edition. Go out and frolic in the snow now, Hannah.
Yes.
You have a good time. And
thank you.
You bet. And we look forward to seeing more work from you. So again, this is Inwood Art Works On Air, Artist Spotlight edition. This is where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes make their home here in Upstate Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show some love and rate and review this podcast 5 stars on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you listen. It really does help us. Many thanks to the good old folks here at Good Shepherd Church for hosting us in Inwood, and also to heightssites.com for their uptown promotional support. You can support On Air, by the way, and any of our programming by making a tax-free donation to inwoodartworks.nyc/donate or via Venmo at Inwood Art Works. Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, live performances, and so much more. Inwood Art Works On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council, and Inwood Art Works programming is made possible by the New York State Council on the Arts with support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Art Works On Air.